If you want. I don't know, it just feels like what's the point of anything at all, you know? These documents are fascinating. The level of detail is remarkable. You say you're only an amateur in entomology? What exactly got you into the field?
I found my love of insects through my son.
Well, your research has been all the rage at the university. People won't stop talking about it. And I'll be honest, I think a lot of people were jealous that you reached out to me for help with your studies. Not too often an entomologist gets a house call.
I'm a good father. I love my son. But after that night, his body was just lifeless. I don't know how it happened. His body just began to decay. He wouldn't leave his bed. I would peek into his room. His friends kept coming over asking where he was, but they wouldn't understand. No one would understand that he couldn't run. He wasn't himself. That's why I took him out of that school, threatening to fail him for not showing up. What do they know? I was the only thing that could keep him safe. No one needed to know his secret. Imagine you lost your childhood to some kind of fluke, some accident.
I'm sorry for your loss, but please let me go.
Loss? You think my son is dead? Why would you say that? You think I killed my son, don't you? I'm the only person that can protect him.
No, I never said such a thing. You're just not thinking straight. Please let me go. And I won't tell anyone about this.
I had to become my son because he was transforming. You see? He had lost his sight by that point. I would wave my hands in front of his eyes to no avail. Medication didn't seem to help. The names just got longer and longer. They were just trying to give him normal pills. But that's not what my son is. He's the farthest thing from normal. He wanted to play his favorite video game, but couldn't. His hands were mangled, practically non-existent.
Let me lead, you fucking psycho!
So I would play the game for him, and I got good. I got so good. We would upload YouTube videos. Before you knew it, we had fans. People loved our videos. I would play with his friends, and I could see fragments of my son's happiness reappearing. We were becoming a family again. But social media was so cruel to me and my son. They would say so many hurtful things and accuse me of everything. The very fan base we built was turning on us, you see?
You need help.
I know. That's why I called you. The pressure. Well, where's the light? Oh. Oh my God. Shut off the light! It's okay. Daddy's here. Daddy's got you. How much longer will he be in there? It's been months. I miss my son.
He's emerging. What is this?
My son! beautiful. You're beautiful. Look. What was that thing? It's my son. I don't know, it just feels like what's the point of anything at all? You know? You know? Arise, warrior. The battle is about to begin.
What battle? Where am I? Hey, where'd you get that?
Push on.
So, let's...
What?
There's some memories that last a lifetime. Your first kiss, your first time driving, first time flying, first time getting an A on a test or hearing your parents say they're proud of you, and the first time you experienced the heartbreak of when your favorite video game gets unjustly shut down. If you close your eyes and listen closely, you can hear spirits breaking from tens of thousands of Echo VR players from across the world. Unfortunately, it was revealed a couple days ago that the most popular VR esport, Echo VR, is being shut down by Meta's new CTO, Andrew Bosworth, aka Boz. Big Boz recently took over and is making some pretty big changes and has cemented himself as the supervillain in the VR space. He, for some reason, decided to pull the plug on Echo VR, which is not a dead game by any means. It's a community of tens of thousands of players that still have a massively thriving. Unfortunately, just like Judge Dredd, Andrew Bosworth was blessed with the ability to axe anything. He's judge, jury, and executioner. So Echo VR was no longer allowed to fly under the new Boz laws. That the community is too tiny, saying that it had fallen into the low 10,000s, which if any of you play games know that that's not really a dead game status for what is essentially a 3-year-old game that doesn't see a ton of updates in the first place. Like, that's pretty fucking good. But not to Bosworth. He only deals in the millions and billions. He doesn't get out of bed unless there's a threesome waiting for him when he stands up, you know? Like, this is the kind of guy that only deals with the biggest numbers, I guess. So he said, unfortunately, since these pests are just so tiny and insignificant, I have to crush them. Keeping things alive takes work, Bosworth said. This is not like a return on investment money standpoint, it's just those resources can be put to other uses that I think will be useful to the now tens of millions of people who are in VR. He also says that Meta has some regulatory constraints that make it more expensive to maintain the game. So this is a bunch of baloney. This is horseradish. There's a bunch of fish paste here. That is a sizable community. That is a pretty strong user base for a game that's 3 years old and does not get active updates. You don't have a team that's on this that's dedicated to working on it around the clock. I just don't believe that's the case. I really don't. I don't think there's a ton of resources that are spent on the game as is, and I don't think taking those resources is going to somehow curb Meta's hundreds of billions of dollars that they're losing already. I'll never understand decisions like this from companies that can clearly afford to just keep this running and maintain the goodwill of tens of thousands of players. Because you cut these people off, they're not coming back. Where are they going to go? They're going to go to Horizon? No one goes to Horizon. That place is more empty than a dilapidated fucking insane asylum from the 1930s. No one goes to Horizon. The only people on Horizon are people that are trying to exchange drugs for Bitcoin. Or just like really shady fucking weirdos RPing. So these players are not going to Horizon, and it's not like you have a ton of other products to offer them. They're just not coming back. They were there mostly for Echo VR, I imagine. And now you've made them hate you. So you've lost them. I feel like the goodwill of them is more lucrative long-term than the 4 or 5 developers that you may have been able to take off of Echo VR and put on your ad space, your mobile game ad functionality, or whatever the fuck you're going to use them for. It's a stupid decision. And they go very hard here. They are absolutely making sure the shit stays buried and dead. Like, they are putting it in the casket and sending it straight to the goddamn core of the earth. They're sending it right to fucking hell. Echo VR will never see the light of day if it goes Boz's way. The Boz went on to put his dick in his mouth one more time. He said, I will add one more thing on this. I know people are really focused on it understandably, which is that we looked at if we can open source it, and the answer is basically no. It's very deeply entangled with a bunch of our systems, and there's no. It'd be even less cost effective to do that. Can we spin it out or sell it? No, because we want the Ready at Dawn team to be continued to be focused on these other projects that we're excited about that I think are going to have a bigger impact on a bigger number of people on driving more adoption. I don't know if he realizes how big of an asshole he sounds like every time he opens his mouth. Everything that comes out is all about numbers. You guys are small, so you guys suck, which is why we're abandoning you out in the cold. Fuck you, find your own way home. Like, it's fucking silly. If the game was truly dead, like it was a really small community, then I'd understand it. Like, that makes sense, most people would understand it. But the game's doing, like, really well. They have, like, 3 other land events this year that have, like, $200,000 in prizing. Like, it's not a dead game. It's really not. They could have, like, just, you know, if they want to focus on other big projects for the Ready at Dawn team, you could just keep the game as is and then have them still work on the other shit. The game is not seeing a ton of updates, and it hasn't in, like, 3 years. So if you just kept it the same, just keep it running, just keep the fucking lights on, like that's the bare minimum, people would probably still be fine with that. And then they could focus on whatever other bigger projects you think are going to entice a bigger number of players to come to the fucking metaverse and, you know, the Oculus, whatever. I just don't see why you couldn't have your cake and eat it too here. It just seemed like a really simple move. He even admits openly that the previous CTO, John Carmack, wouldn't have shut down the game. And do you know why? Because he's a guy who fucking gets it. He's not perfect, no one is, but he at least understands basic shit like this. Whereas Boz doesn't, because you know what Boz is? He's an ad guy. Before he was the CTO of this shit, he was just an ad guy. All he did was fucking ads. There's a great video that's made by a channel called Thrill Seeker that I'd like to show you some clips of. He covers this whole thing in depth, so I highly recommend it. I'll put a link to the description. I'll put a link to the video in the description.
Shit.
The controls.
Okay, let's talk about AI.
ChatGPT must be regulated, and AI can only be used by bad actors, warns OpenAI's CTO. Can be used by bad actors? What? Must be regulated, and AI can be used by bad actors.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, I got it. Not only, but also. I don't know why I added the word only in there. Yeah, well, it's no surprise. All the people, you even had Zuckerberg that forever was saying, I don't know, regulate it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't leave it up to me, regulate it. And it's some kind of, it's almost like they know how hard it would be to regulate it, and in saying so, knowing it probably won't, or it can't move quickly enough. But I agree. I don't even know what those regulations look like. But there's such a gap in our understanding of the true capabilities.
I mean, schools are banning it from their network or computer.
Some are.
That's not stopping people from using it at home or on their phones. It's like, I don't know. Trying to regulate it's very hard, is what I'm trying to say.
If possible at all.
Very hard.
If possible at all. And you're asking people to regulate it what is their experience with this stuff? You're saying, listen, we can't regulate ourselves. We're just out here building stuff, amazing stuff.
Yeah, can you
take a look at it and figure out the rules and then
see the ramifications of what we're building
But it's-
really quickly, please?
it's
go look at what's happening over there. They can't brush up on this stuff in 15 minutes amongst all the other things that they're supposed to have a finger on. Like, these people are the wrong people to make the regulation in the first place.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some chief technical officer that's fully aware of the risks and has all kinds of ideas around it. It's totally possible. But whenever I see Zuckerberg go talk to these people, there'll often be some sort of meme moment where someone's like, now explain to me why this image comes up when someone Googles me. And he's like, excuse me, sir, I'm from Facebook. I don't have anything to do with that. And, like, who are the regulators in this regard? Who should they be?
Yeah.
Should they really be? Should it be this Congress, or should it be government officials, or should it be a coalition of?
Yeah, like a committee of like the most advanced people, like
who are these
looking
people?
into advanced technology. I don't know.
Who are these people? Is it Lex Friedman?
Yeah.
Okay.
Elon.
All right. Let's just make
One
Lex.
of
Lex, you have to do it.
He's like, oh. But I'm doing push-ups.
Yeah, listen, man. I don't know who's signing up for that. It's a terrifying proposal to try to regulate this thing. But most parties, even those building and selling it, seem to agree that it needs some sort of regulation because they realize its ability to overhaul everything and to not necessarily always be used with the best interest in mind of the public. You want Eddie Snowden involved?
Yeah, why not? He could be part of the committee, I feel like.
What about Alex Jones, him too?
Yeah, he'll be the head chief.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And it's always especially terrifying when it comes from the chief technology officer at the company.
Yeah.
The chatbot's popularity means it's too early to regulate it. And there are questions about how you govern the use of this technology globally. Mira Murati said in an interview with Time magazine the company didn't expect its child would be met with such enthusiasm when it was released. Its popularity sparked questions over some ethical concerns, adding that such tools can be misused, can be used by bad actors. He continued, how do you govern the use of AI in a way that's aligned with human values? Yeah, how do you do it? They already were under pressure on the political side. It wouldn't write the poem about Trump, and it already got politicized, and then you had the separation from the left, and man, humans, this is holy guacamole.
Yeah, AI is going to open a whole door of crap.
Crap.
Just crap.
Yeah, I don't know if it's AI or it's humans, I don't know what it is. It's the combination. It's all parties.
Those assholes.
So you're Procter & Gamble in the mid-1800s. You've been making a decent living selling candles and soap made from animal fat for a few decades now. But come 1870 and things are getting tough. There's an economic downturn and you really don't want to end up on the streets like these schmucks. So you quickly swap out the animal fat in your soaps for a cheaper alternative, coconut and palm oil. You call your new creation Ivory Soap. And you market it as a pure alternative to all those nasty fat-based soaps your competitors are manufacturing. And people love it. Ivory Soap becomes the #1 soap used by hundreds of thousands of people all around the world. And since you're manufacturing it from cheap coconut and palm oil, you're making more money than ever before. But then you start thinking, we saved a ton of money switching from expensive animal fat to cheap coconut and palm oil. But what if there was an even cheaper oil we could use in our soap? Even cheaper oil equals more profits. So you start experimenting with cottonseed oil. What is cottonseed oil, you may ask? Why haven't you heard about it before? That's because cottonseed oil was only used as an industrial oil for lubricating machines and stuff, and it's highly toxic, causing things like infertility, pregnancy problems, liver damage, respiratory problems, and loss of appetite. But whatever, let's just work with it. All you have to do is find a way to remove the toxic gossip pole from the oil, figure out how to turn this permanently liquid oil into a solid, and you will be golden. Compared to coconut oil, cottonseed oil was dirt cheap. So you hire a chemist named Kaiser to try to figure out a way to get around that little toxicity issue with cottonseed oil. And boom, when Kaiser pulls through, he comes up with a chemical process called hydrogenation and successfully turns this highly toxic liquid oil into solid gold. You can see it now. Your cottonseed oil innovation would change the world of toiletries forever. But that's not all. As you sat back and took in the glorious bar of solid oil sitting in front of you, something hits you. See, unlike today where pretty much every single family cooks with vegetable oils in their kitchen, back then every housewife cooked with real animal fats. They cooked with animal fat in the form of lard. Lard that was very pricey. So you thought to yourself, wait a minute, doesn't this solid form of cottonseed oil,
What do you...
who would love it? And so Crisco was born.
Really crisp, not greasy. Sure, the crisp goes in the french fries because Crisco oil stays in the pan. All the oil? Almost. Watch. I'll measure the Crisco oil, then fry these potatoes and... Oh, Crisco oil stays in the pan.
And you poured everything you had into a massive marketing campaign. A marketing campaign to inculcate the masses into switching from natural animal fat to this industrial food product that started out as toxic. Crisco was new, it was fresh, it was so much cheaper than buying real nasty animal fats. I mean, come on, what sounds better to you, nasty, fatty animal lard or Crisco? There was simply no competition. So within just a few years, America became hooked on Crisco. But then you thought to yourself, why just stop at cottonseed oil? There are so many other seed oils out there. So throughout the years, this same hydrogenation process used to turn cottonseed oil into a solid would also be used to create soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil, grapeseed oil, and many other industrial vegetable oils. There, that has a nice healthy ring to it.
You know, I always wonder about what PR room came up with the word vegetable oils. They're not made from vegetable oils. Vegetables, like broccoli or anything, they're made from seeds and beans.
So grapeseed oil, like any of these green seed oils, like corn oil, canola oil, which comes from the rapeseed plant, soybean oil, they're referred to sometimes within the food industry as RBD oils, refined, bleached, and deodorized oils. Yeah, because they have like these again, these harsh, bitter flavors, right? Some of them, like the rapeseed, contain toxins like urusic acid.
They might want to change the name of that seed.
Yeah, right?
Doesn't it seem like a rude way?
Yeah.
You know, you want to murder fruit? No. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, why is it rapeseed?
Exactly.
And it worked. By 1980, almost every restaurant in the US switched over to using these cheaper seed oils in their fryers. And by 1993, Americans were consuming an average of 30 grams of seed oils per day, compared to just 2 grams in 1909. And for you, as Procter & Gamble, life couldn't be better. You were making millions. But then something happened that would turn your fairy tale into a nightmare. The studies started coming out. Studies showing that polysaturated fat found in vegetable oils turns into a varnish-like substance in the intestines. Like this kind of varnish. That vegetable oil is linked to high rates of cancer, Alzheimer's disease, and heart disease. And because these oils are not natural like their names want you to think, they get stored deep in our tissues and brain. So everyone's walking around with old toxic oil in their bodies, slowly inching them towards disease.
These fats also integrate themselves into your body. You are what you eat, right? And this is especially true for the kinds of fats that we consume.
Any polyunsaturated fat you give a pig is ending up in its fat. Any polyunsaturated fat that you or I eat is ending up in our fat tissue.
This is how much natural fats from things like beef, pork, dairy have been in our diet since 1960. This line is for vegetable oils, and this line is the obesity rates. Procter & Gamble fooled us all. Procter & Gamble and all these other companies fooled us into throwing away perfectly fine natural fats that came from real animals in exchange for these food products. Food products that started out as toxic industrial waste. And yet we willingly take the bite every single day. Popular Science wrote, quote, what was garbage in 1860 was fertilizer in 1870, cattle feed in 1880, and table food and many things else in 1890, end quotes. But today industrial seed oils are found everywhere. From fast food to restaurant kitchens to cookies, crackers, chips, candy, vegetable puffs, granola bars, and even nut milks. You and your family probably have some in your pantry right now. The seed oil industry oils up America. They oil up the world. And they're raking in $250 billion every year from it at your expense. Stay dangerous, subscribe for more, and this is the evil business of seed oils.
Crisco oil wouldn't let me down.
It's nice to know you can trust Crisco oil to fry chicken that doesn't taste greasy.
Today, I try my best to cut out all seed oils from my diet, and something I've also started obsessing over is longevity. Living longer, healthier, and reversing aging. And the great news is that longevity research has exploded over the past few years, and researchers have actually found real supplements that you can take that have been shown to decrease aging. If you follow people like Dr. David Sinclair, you know that he takes something called NMN and resveratrol. That's because taking these two things increases something called NAD+ in your body. NAD+ is insanely important for your longevity because it helps with things like DNA repair, energy metabolism, and mitochondrial function. So you definitely want to supplement. I was ready to buy some, but the problem was I didn't know what brand to trust because the supplement industry is super sketchy. Sure, you can pick some up on Amazon, but how do you know how much actual NMN is in it, or if it's been tested for toxic metals, or if it was made in China? That's why when I found out about Verso from the Concrete Podcast Big Fan, I bought some with my own money on the spots. And I've been taking their Cell Being supplement every day since. All you gotta do is take 2 of these capsules every day, and boom, you got your daily dose of NMN, resveratrol, and something called TMG. But what I really love about Verso is that their products are made in California. They perform third-party testing on every batch that you can check on their website. They store their stuff in cold storage so the molecules don't degrade, and they come in this cute packaging. I am a sucker for good product design. I am telling you guys, it doesn't matter how much money or power you have if your health sucks. That's why you gotta pick up some Cell Being at ver.so/jtran with code JTRAN for 15% off your order. That's ver.so/jtran with code JTRAN for 15% off with the link below. Thanks to Verso for sponsoring this video.
Are you sure this is gonna work? Why not? I made a Crisco pie. Yeah, me too, but a cake. I think you should have waited till your wife gets back.
Crisco first hit grocery shelves in 1911. And going in, your marketing teams knew they couldn't just let the ingredients speak for themselves. You had to convince the American public that eating a chemically solidified slab of cottonseed oil that previously could have rendered you infertile was not only normal, but better for you. You had to convince the public that it was even better than butter. So to achieve this monstrous feat, you were gonna have to launch one of the most epic advertising campaigns in American history. To do that, you hired J. Walter Thompson, a legendary full-service ad agency created by the American advertising pioneer by the same name. J. Walter Thompson was actually the very first full-service ad agency in America as well, and they got to work right away. They mailed samples of Crisco to restaurants and grocery stores. They handed out Crisco fried donuts in the streets. They gave away free Crisco cookbooks with every purchase, which all sound like standard marketing tactics today, but back then it was nothing short of revolutionary. You tell the writers at the agency to say Crisco is digestible. Although you had no scientific proof of this, it sure does sound good. And you also make sure that no one ever mentions the word cottonseed, because that would just remind people of soap, detergent, and machinery lubricant, and not something that you would want to consume. The only thing on the ingredients list is 100% shortening. And if anyone ever asks you what shortening is, you say it's made from vegetables. In reality, cottonseed is a seed. But sure, I guess you could technically call it a vegetable if you really wanted to. It grows on cotton plants, doesn't it? And vegetables also grow on plants. So it's basically the same thing. And all of this mislabeling and misinformation was happening at the perfect time in history. Because detailed food labeling laws from the FDA wouldn't be mandated until the late 60s. So for 50 sweet years, you could say Crisco was whatever you wanted it to be.
Oh, and look what Crisco does for pie. Makes my pie crust flaky as all get out.
Cause I get out my Crisco and I do some special baking. I love trying out new recipes.
To make these light and golden Christmas cookies, butter-flavored Crisco is the recipe for success.
And within just a few short years, Crisco officially became the American baker's best friend. But why stop there? Why not use all your Crisco expertise to expand your product line even more?
Betsy, what are you saying? Don't use Crisco oil, Mom. There's something new. No Crisco oil. New Crisco oil.
After World War II, Procter & Gamble started experimenting with partial hydrogenation. So instead of turning cottonseed oil into a solid, they just kind of stopped halfway, leaving it as a liquid, while still removing all the toxic chemicals, color, and bad smells. This partially hydrogenated oil could be kept on the shelf for years, unlike disgusting animal fat. Restaurants loved it because they didn't have to keep changing the oil in their fryers. They could just keep reusing it. It just never went bad. What a miracle, right? Nabisco and Kraft love it because their cookies could stay on warehouse shelves for months and months and months and still be crunchy. And during this new era of hydrogenated oils, Procter & Gamble ditched the rancid cottonseed oil that they collected from cotton farms for an even cheaper alternative: the leftover rancid soybean oil from animal feed production. So we went from using real animal fat to coconut and palm oil to cottonseed oil to now using a waste product from animal feed production. You know, the stuff that isn't even fit for animals to consume. Now that sounds yummy. So now Crisco products no longer contain cottonseed oil. No, that's far too luxurious for the masses. Now Crisco only contains soybean oil, and your empire only continued to grow.
Today's Crisco oil is remarkably clear, remarkably light, so you taste your fish, not our oil, and there's no cholesterol. Deliciously, Crisco oil so light it's extra flavor-free.
But then, just like Crisco's lard alternative, scientists started telling the world just how bad these hydrogenated oils were for your body, and so the war began.
Gets new Crisco oil. You're gonna love eating light.
Baby, you're the one who put the healthy in my healthy appetite.
With all this talk of vegetable oils being the new frontier, scientists all over America started getting suspicious. How could an oil this processed be good for you? And if it was, why didn't we think of it first? So they headed for the labs, and what they found was not flattering for you. One group of scientists found that although replacing animal fats with vegetable oils did lower cholesterol by 13%, it also made you twice as likely to die from cancer. Another group replaced animal fats with vegetable oils in the diets of men who had a history of heart disease, and discovered that the ones who ate vegetable oil had a higher chance of dying. This wasn't exactly music to your ears, but you also weren't too worried about a few nerds in the lab. Because even though scientists were telling the world how bad vegetable oils were for your health, you had already formed a secret alliance with the one organization that mattered most: the American Heart Association, or AHA.
If you took all the cigarettes in the world and laid them end to end, you would never have time to smoke a single one. Now, isn't that a great idea?
See, in the 40s and 50s, the American Heart Association wasn't the huge nonprofit it is today. Back then, heart disease at the American Heart Association wasn't exactly a big deal to most Americans. But you knew something was coming. You knew the truth about your cheap oils would eventually be revealed. So you went on the offensive. In 1949, you chose the American Heart Association to receive a $1.5 million prize from a national radio competition that you happened to be the sponsor of. $1.5 million in 1949 would be the equivalent of $19 million today. A huge paycheck for a relatively unknown organization like the AHA. Generous, right? And it helped them go national overnight. The AHA now had all the power and resources it would ever need to influence the masses. What direction would it influence the masses in? Well, these scientists are humans at the end of the day. Humans that would like to maintain their prestigious titles and positions if possible. So if the AHA wanted Daddy's money to keep rolling in, it would be in their best interest to maybe not badmouth vegetable oils. It would maybe be in their best interest to paint vegetable oils in the best light possible.
And then they, of course, as we know, they got a huge boost when the American Heart Association started recommending polyunsaturated vegetable oils to replace saturated fats. And this was a tremendous boost to the vegetable oil industry.
So thanks to your new propaganda arm, you, the seed oil industry, finally had free rein to market your oils as good for your heart and overall health. So you went around advertising all the upsides of the scientific studies we mentioned earlier. That seed oils lower cholesterol by 13%, that they're way healthier than butter, that they're so clear and white there's no way you could doubt their purity.
Gets new Crisco oil. You're gonna love eating light.
But that wasn't all, because in 1961, a study would be released by the AHA that would forever change the way Americans thought about vegetable oil. The study was done by a famous physiologist named Ansel Keys, and it said that animal fats like butter actually raise cholesterol, and high cholesterol causes heart attacks. The solution? Replace your thick, disgusting animal fat with vegetable oils because of their proven ability to lower cholesterol by 13%. And the world ate it up. And with that, the seed oil industry had achieved something staggering. What was garbage in 1860 was fertilizer in 1870, cattle feed in 1880, table food and many things else in 1890, and now what's the hottest new health food in 1961? And oh, have we paid the price.
Here's Crisco coconut fries, and because most of it comes back, there's no oily taste.
No oily taste, it's true, so you
The process of hydrogenation made your vegetable oils edible, but there was a caveat. See, during the hydrogenation process, a new type of fat is created, trans fats. You could call this fat man-made frankenfat. In general, trans fat is considered the worst fat anyone can eat because it's not from nature. It's an artificial fat that's produced through the hydrogenation process.
These polyunsaturated fats, as I mentioned, the oils that are rich in them have trans fats, which we know are not friendly to your cardiovascular system. They're not friendly to your brain. Higher consumption of trans fats is associated with higher risk for developing Alzheimer's disease and worse memory function, even in the young and healthy.
The potential is that every single day, all of us in the Western world, if we're eating excess vegetable oils, excess polyunsaturated fats, specifically linoleic acid, we are driving a signal to our adipocytes that winter is coming. Get fat. Stay fat.
Whoa. And by the 1980s, all those pesky scientists that keep trying to debunk your healthy oil claims were getting really concerned about these artificial trans fats. In 1990, 2 Dutch scientists released a study revealing that artificial trans fats actually raise your cholesterol, even more than animal fats do, causing a huge risk for coronary heart disease. This was not what you and your other vegetable oil giants wanted to hear, so you tried to fight science with science. In 1994, a group of edible oil manufacturers funded Joseph Judd, a scientist from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, to try to prove that trans fats didn't cause heart disease, but it didn't work. Joseph ended up with the same results as the Dutch scientists, and this finally caused the FDA to finally pressure the seed oil industry to at least label how much trans fats are in your products. As simple as the request seemed, you really didn't want to do it. Why? Because your Crisco shortening contains 50% trans fat. And according to the studies, if just 2% of your daily fat intake comes from trans fat, your risk of heart disease goes up by 23%. People were basically spreading heart attack on their morning toast. The FDA's decision to make trans fat information public could end you. So what did you do? You reformulated. You went to none other than Monsanto, the company behind Agent Orange, GMOs, seed licensing, which practically makes them the company that owns the world's food supply. Watch our private documentary on Monsanto by clicking that join button below. And you asked Monsanto to create a genetically modified soybean that doesn't produce artificial trans fats in the hydrogenation process. What, did anyone really think you were going to learn from your mistakes and go back to a healthier, more expensive oil source? Don't be silly. Thanks to Monsanto's GMO genius, you got what you wanted. Now all your packages sported a big red stamp saying 0 trans fat. So everyone knew you were the good guy now. The guy looking out for everyone's health. But there's just one last secret. One last loophole you used to rebrand into a health-conscious alternative fat brand. See, when the FDA announced in 2003 that you guys had to put trans fat content on your labels, you were actually still allowed to say 0 trans fat as long as the product didn't have more than 0.5 grams per serving. According to the FDA's rules, the key word here is per serving. So if 1 tablespoon of Crisco has 12 grams of fats, and 0.5 grams of that is artificial trans fat, then 8.3% of the fat content is trans fat. And that study said if 2% of the fat you eat is trans fat, it could cause a 23% increase in heart disease. I know, it's enough to make an oil tycoon's head spin. But this still wasn't the end. You needed to ride the 0 grams of trans fat wave for as long as possible before your time finally ran out.
Today we're going to talk about eliminating toxic seed oils.
And margarine is terrible for you. Vegetable oil. Yeah, and now people know what's really good for you is grass-fed butter. The grass-fed butter is actually not bad for you at all. The more I dig into it, the more I believe this is the center of human chronic health issues.
The year is 2015, and the FDA has officially banned artificial trans fats from all foods, giving everyone until 2018 to get them completely out of their products. Except the 0.5 grams per serving, because we all need a little wiggle room. This is why you'll still see Crisco sitting on grocery store shelves with 0.5 grams of fat missing from their nutrition label. And even though shortening is way less popular than it was in the 60s and 70s, it's still available to buy. People are still using it in online cooking videos.
Certainly, high fructose corn syrup is not helping anything, but I think it's important for people to understand that that might not be the only villain, and that a lot of people might get rid of the sugar, but then continue eating processed food or hummus with canola oil or, chips from the store that are cooked in soybean oil and not understand it. And this could be driving a lot of the disease that we're seeing in a really subtle way.
Some restaurants have molded their entire business structure around these cheap, long-lasting oils. Even In-N-Out, the legendary burger chain in the west coast of America, proudly proclaims that their french fries are only fried in 100% sunflower oil. And because the label says trans fat free, we think it's okay to eat. At least it's better than before, right? Well, these trans fat free oils actually might be worse than their high trans fat counterparts. Studies are coming out on the dangerous chemicals created by trans fat free oil that has been heated over and over again in restaurant fryers.
Aldehydes, one of the aldehydes is a formal marker for your cancer risk. And aldehydes are created, are just created in huge amounts when they fry food in polyunsaturated oils.
Restaurant owners are saying that this oil is creating a strange gooey substance that is impossible to clean off their walls. Turns out that gooey substance is actually a polymer.
He said the polymers, these degraded molecules were so unstable that when they would put the uniforms in the backs of trucks to go take them to the cleaners, the uniforms would spontaneously combust. And then when they took them to clean them and they put them in the dryers, there were still so many of these toxic chemicals in them that they would explode in the dryers. So, I mean, just imagine, we're just all putting this in our bodies.
Once more studies on the effects of these new oils hit mainstream media, Crisco, Mazola, and all the other vegetable oil brands will probably have to adjust again. Whatever they do, we probably won't know about it until 3 decades from now. And by then, the damage will already have been done. To this day, US dietary guidelines still say that we should cook with canola, corn, and soybean oil. That's right, even after all of this, the edible oil industry still has the faithful backing of the US government. That is how powerful they are. And you want to know what else the government shoves down our throats? Fluoride. You know fluoride, right? It's in your toothpaste, tap water, table salt, bottled water. The government doesn't let you escape it even if you wanted to. Why? Because it's good for you, they say. It's good for your teeth and prevents cavities. When in reality, fluoride started out as a harmful poison that was part of the aluminum manufacturing process. In reality, high doses of fluoride have been found to lower IQ in children, among many other very bad things. And yet, for some reason, fluoride was able to go from this manufacturing poison to something that's good for you that we need to shove into your water supply. For some reason, the United States, Canada, Australia, Ireland, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom generously provide you with fluoride in your tap water free of charge. Why? Click the card on the screen to watch our new documentary on fluoride right now on our new channel called Evil Food Supply. I created this new channel because I've been getting way more serious about my health, so this
Over tooth decay. Procter & Gamble announces Crest toothpaste with Fluorostan, its exclusive fluoride compound, world's greatest weapon against decay.
Look, Mom, no cavities.
Former employees of Occidental Chemical Corporation have filed a lawsuit against the company. They say they have life-threatening diseases
Like leukemia, emphysema, and toxic brain syndrome. For years, doctors struggled to diagnose them, but finally they found a common link. It was
fluoride.
It's a byproduct that they can't do anything with. It's a poison, so they sell it.
You allow industry to use your water supply to dispose of their hazardous waste. It was a scam from the get-go. It is a means of getting rid of fluoride. It's a disposal mechanism.
It's bizarre. Fluoridation is the worst recycling practice in the world.
So, you're Alcoa in the 1930s, a giant corporation that makes products out of aluminum. And honestly, you've created some pretty amazing things. Tea kettles, foil, airplane parts. But one thing that sucks about manufacturing aluminum is that it's a super messy process. Because, guess what? Raw aluminum doesn't come all perfect and soft and ready to be molded into a frying pan. It needs to be chemically processed and broken down. And this chemical process produces a lot of highly toxic chemicals.
Don't
like
you dare.
Ammonia, methane, and fluoride. And we're not talking about the natural fluoride that occurs in caves and stuff. We're talking about an artificial, man-made fluoride compound that is way more toxic. Like, really toxic.
Hydrofluorosilicic acid does not occur in nature. It's a man-made molecule. And it eats through glass, stainless steel, fiberglass, plastic. You name it, it'll eat it.
The problem is, it would be super expensive to dispose of this toxic fluoride in a safe and responsible way. So, it's a 1930s factory owner to do. Why not pipe it into the air or dump it in the river? I mean, come on, it's the 1930s. This is the dawn of the industrial age. factories are dumping toxic chemicals into the river, no one even knows what the long-term effects of these industrial waste chemicals are. They're too busy making up for prohibition or whatever people did in the 30s. So, as the years went by, you continued to flood the rivers with this fluoride waste, and everything was going fine and dandy until things started to go south. See, you've been dumping fluoride into the air and water for over 30 years now, and people were starting to notice. Alcoa factory workers were showing symptoms of poisoning from the fluoride gases. Cows from nearby farms were getting really weak. They couldn't even stand on their own anymore. And local dentists were starting to notice strange brown stains and chipping on the teeth of children who live nearby. Fluoride is starting to get bad press. And if that bad press continued, everyone would start connecting the dots to you and your fluoride river dumping frenzy. And if that happens, you're going to be buried with expensive lawsuits. It would be the end of you. So if you want to survive this and thrive, then you got to do something drastic. You got to find a way to change the public's perception of fluoride from this toxic, poisonous chemical to something that's good for you. And this effort to rebrand fluoride into a healthy chemical would be one of the greatest propaganda efforts known to mankind. It's why today, fluoride has seeped into everything. It's in your toothpaste.
Chemical? You're gonna put some chemical in my mouth?
Tap water, table salt, bottled water.
Yes, Crest can really reduce cavities because only Crest has Fluorostan, an exclusive stannous fluoride formula that protects your whole family.
Chemical leak this afternoon in Rock Island. The chemical was so strong that it was burning through the concrete there.
It was just before 1 o'clock Thursday afternoon when hazmat crews were called to the Rock Island Water Treatment Plant for a chemical spill coming from this tanker truck. The chemical hydrofluorosilicic acid is used to add fluoride to the plant's water. After several hours, crews were able to clean up the leak, allowing operations to return to normal.
The treatment of the water and the amount of water being used by the plant, there's no effect on it.
So why are we putting that in the water? The United States, Canada, Australia, Ireland, and New Zealand generously provide you with the fluoride in your tap water free of charge. Why? Because it's good for you, they say. It's good for teeth. It prevents cavities.
To say things like tobacco is harmless, fluoride is harmless. Agent Orange is harmless, they say. DDT was harmless. That's this, right? Yeah. GMOs now, they say, are harmless. There's a long history of science selling out to corporate interests while the people are systematically poisoned.
And to this day, people still believe fluoride is safe for the drinking water, and the majority of dentists still believe it's safe to put in toothpaste and to put in different types of compounds.
When in reality, too much fluoride has been connected to brain damage, skeletal fluorosis, bone cancer, and lower IQ in children.
What we did was we exposed them, let them drink the fluoride in the water.
I don't want
for
to be
6 to
beat.
20
I don't want you to
weeks.
bite me.
The
I don't
pattern
want to be
that
bit.
we saw
I don't want to
typically
be bit.
is what
I'm
we
gonna
see
throw
with
you
the
around.
neurotoxic
I'm gonna throw you
agents
around. That's
that
right.
are well
Yeah.
known to cause a hyperactivity or a memory problem or an IQ problem. When I first presented the results of these studies, one of the individuals sitting and listening to the results, he says, "Do you have any idea what you're saying?" And he says, "You're telling us that we're reducing the IQ of children."
And yet, the government won't let you escape it even if you wanted to. It's acidic. It'll kill you. And it all started because Alcoa didn't want to get sued. Welcome to Evil Food Supply, where we expose all the evils of our modern diet. Subscribe for more. And this is the evil history of fluoride.
There you got you, Can you kisses?
How is it that it's still going on after half a century?
Fluoride is safe and effective, and it's one of the most inexpensive ways to really cut down on dental decay.
Fluoridation of community water is extremely safe and extremely effective in preventive decay. Science is on the side of fluoride being safe and effective. There is no controversy about this in the scientific community.
I love all my babies. I do. I love you, Paws. Hi, Paws. Yes, Paws. Where's Cutie Pie number 5? I love my babies. There's number 5. Ooh, I love films. What about Cutie Pie?
All of the music and sound effects you hear in this video came from Epidemic Sound. Epidemic Sound is this incredible, royalty-free music and sound effects platform where you can download unlimited music and sound effects for your videos. They've got over 35,000 tracks and 90,000 sound effects for you to choose from. And they're the only place we get music from. And finding the perfect song for your content is super easy. You can filter by specific genres like cartoon music or crime. You can filter by specific genres like cartoon music or crime scene music or even pop music from the 2000s. You can get that specific. And it's the same thing with sound effects too. Music and sound effects are the easiest way to make your videos feel way more high quality. And Epidemic Sound has the best selection. Pause the video and try it out now with the link in the video description. That's Epidemic Sound with the link below.
America prepares. All America alters its pattern of life and work to meet the demand for perfection. Industry is a double step to supply the sinews of safety. The armaments of war that an embattled world must have if democracy is to survive.
In the early 1940s, the U.S. launched a little something called the Manhattan Project. But to make an atomic bomb, the U.S. would need uranium and fluoride. But not just a little bit of fluoride. We're talking tons of fluoride. Hundreds of tons, actually. Luckily, the U.S. knew just the affordable place to get all this fluoride from. American manufacturing factories like yours. As the head of Alcoa, you're all in, obviously. So you sign on the dotted line, turn your engines to max, and start producing as much fluoride as you possibly can. And other factories across America do the same. And at first, this seemed like a really good idea. I mean, hello, this is the stuff you would normally dump in the river, and now you're getting money for it? Plus, Uncle Sam needs us. America needs us. We're being patriots. But shortly into your war effort, things start to go downhill. The toxic gases from all this fluoride production was making your factory workers sick, sometimes even killing them. Chemical burns were showing up all over their bodies, including their eyes, throats, and esophagus. Fair-skinned men were leaving the factory with burnt red faces, which is why you made sure to only employ African Americans inside. Constant gas leaks and explosions would literally burn workers to death. One woman named Gloria Porter said that she saw a man get, quote, eaten alive, end quote.
Hi Nandi, hi Meech, hi Max. How you guys doing?
In a factory in Cleveland. Another man reported that the fluoride dust would land on cars outside and dissolve the paint on contact. And even though they were working with highly toxic chemicals, all you gave these factory workers for safety equipment was a rag to put over their mouths. You gotta love the industrial age. Between June 1945 and October 1946, 477 factory workers were either injured or died from chemical-related accidents in these fluoride factories. And word was getting out. These factory workers lost their lives because of the poor working conditions you set up. Their families could sue you. In fact, they're probably talking to lawyers as we speak. And if they do sue you, your whole business and your life's work could go down the toilet. But luckily, there's one convenient benefit to fluoride that you can use.
Oops. It's annoying.
That you can use.
What are you doing?
All this fluoride panic around.
What are you doing, child? What are you doing? Loving on Dad? It's loving on. I love your kisses, lips. You have the best kisses. You do. You have the best kisses, lips.
There's no such thing.
Preventive medicine for teeth?
For fewer cavities?
Can't be done.
It has. Now Gleam's done it. New Gleam put preventive medicine in a toothpaste for fewer cavities.
What's preventive medicine?
It's stannous fluoride plus stannous pyrophosphate.
Gleam tastes great.
No toothpaste fights cavities better. Preventive medicine for fewer cavities in New Gleam.
I said it could be done.
Back in 1901, a scientist named Frederick Mackay started noticing a strange brown staining on his patient's teeth. This brown staining came out of nowhere and was only happening in his town. No other towns in the area had it, and this was pretty weird. So Frederick did some investigating and discovered that the tap water in his Colorado town had absurdly high levels of fluoride.
Stop biting on Dad.
I wonder how that
Bite on Dad. Ow.
His patients were walking in with these ugly brown stains, but they also had no cavities and rock-hard teeth. And this wasn't a typical thing at the time. In the early 1900s, tooth decay was a really big problem. Teenagers were getting fitted for dentures. Soldiers were failing their health exams. There was even a lucrative black market for false teeth. But this fluoride thing was great for making your teeth stronger. It prevented cavities. Now that is something that we can work with.
You're gonna get it. You're getting it. You're getting it now. Now you're getting it. Now you're getting it. Rah! Dad's got him. Ah.
I think it could be the crest.
Of the 5 leading toothpastes, only one has fluoride.
Only one has fluoride. Oh, stop it.
The great thing about this fluoride disaster is that you are not fighting this alone. The government also had their head on the chopping block for encouraging factories to pump out even more fluoride. So you and the government were on the same side. And with the government in your corner, anything was possible. So here's what you did. First, you hunted down that dentist, Frederick Mackay, the guy who discovered that fluoride hardens teeth.
Don't bite that.
You use his research to back your case. And you even give him better technology so he can finish his study faster. Might as well support the guy, right? And then you present his study to cities all over America, saying that if these cities added fluoride to their tap water, it would prevent cavities. And guess what? They drank it up. Wanting to put a random chemical into everyone's water supply may sound crazy today from our point of view. But remember, this was around the end of World War II. Americans had just defeated Hitler. They defeated Japan. They saved the world. And after winning such a vicious war, back home, they naturally became overprotective. They wanted to protect the masses from everything. to prevent bad stuff from happening ever again. So adding fluoride into the water supply to protect people's teeth? Why not? We can't trust them to take care of themselves. So it was no surprise that in 1945, Grand Rapids, Michigan signed up to be the first trial city, the first city in the world to have fluoridated water. And after just 6 years, you found out that fluoride actually worked. Tooth decay did in fact go down. Pretty soon, other cities start getting excited about fluoridation. Because who doesn't want clean, white, shiny teeth? Fluoride was successfully a positive thing right in front of your eyes. However, the true genius of this master plan was that the more cities you get to dump fluoride in their water, the less of a chance you'll get sued. After all, fluoride is good for you. We've actually been doing America a favor. And when scientists come forward and question you on the safety of fluoride, like Kai Roholm and later on, Frederick McKay himself, you simply pump out more studies that refute them. You open a lab at the University of Rochester that's dedicated to the study of fluoride, and you fill it with the researchers from the Manhattan Project, just to keep it in the family. You even start your own academic journal on tooth decay called Dental Caries, and make fluoride the star. The naysayers were no match for your expert propaganda. And by 1955, Crest releases a new product that would be the last nail in the coffin for fluoride's new positive public image.
Crest toothpaste with Fluorostan, its exclusive fluoride compound that's far superior to fluoride alone.
The world's first fluoride toothpaste.
They actually started working with the fluoride and did the original toxicology studies. And they described what happened to some of these people when they were accidentally overexposed to fluoride.
Amanda, have you never wondered why I drink only distilled water or rainwater?
By the 1970s, fluoride had become a beloved household name. And sure, there were a few fringe conspiracy theorists who would say that fluoridation is part of a communist plot to turn us into brain-dead atheist slaves, but luckily, you have almost every dentist in America to back up your fluoride claims. I mean, it does prevent dental decay, doesn't it? And do we really want to go back to wearing dentures made from donkey teeth?
Ew, no.
Of course not. So pretty much everyone in America was on Team Fluoride. But you're still not totally in the clear, because there's one little scientist, one little rat, who's doing everything she can to dismantle your fluoride lies. And her name was Phyllis Molinix.
Dr. Phyllis Molinix started her career at the University of Kansas with a PhD in pharmacology with a specialty in neurotoxicology.
It was 1982. And Phyllis had just started her new job at the Forsyth Dental Center in Boston. Her mission? Testing the toxicity levels of different chemicals, including fluoride. And so, she went through the usual motions. She fed fluoride-laced water to rats and observed their behavior. And what she saw was kinda terrifying. The pregnant rats who were fed fluoridated water were giving birth to hyperactive babies. They were also mentally slower than the rats, whose mothers weren't fed the water. Phyllis also noted that male rats were more easily affected by fluoride in the womb, whereas females were more affected when they drank the water later as young adults. And what's interesting about this study is that it aligns with another study that was published in Canada in 2019. Where the male babies of human mothers that drank fluoridated water showed signs of a lowered IQ and hyperactivity, while the females did not.
There was no question that behavior was vulnerable to fluoride. Whether you got a very short exposure, and this in animals, if they're young, if it's prenatal, or if it's early postnatal, all you needed was 2 or 3 days exposure to this. And it caused a permanent change in behavior when the animals grew up.
Phyllis got pretty excited about this. So excited that she typed out a whole paper and submitted it to the Journal of Neurotoxicology and Teratology. What she didn't know was that she was being watched by none other than Harold Hodge, the head researcher of the Manhattan Project. Yeah, he was still alive at the time. And Hodge was really not happy about this nonsense on the toxicity of fluoride. Sure, he was super old now, but he still didn't want anything to ruin the sparkling clean image of fluoride that he worked tirelessly to build. Plus, if people find out that fluoride really was toxic, then he would definitely get sued or go to jail. And so would all the other companies who poisoned those workers during the days of the Manhattan Project. To top all this off, the dental center also didn't want this paper published because they're being funded by pro-fluoride organizations, and that would be a huge conflict of interest. So, yeah, this meddling lady needs to go. So what do? You corner the rat and threaten to fire her if she publishes the paper. And what did Phyllis do in response? She published it anyway. After Phyllis turned in her lab coat, she found out the truth on who this Hodge guy really was, and why he was always hovering over her experiments at the dental center.
It can reduce decay, and 5,000 kids like me, they'll prove it. No toothpaste fights cavities better than New Gleam.
And Gleam tastes good.
What do you know about fluoride in the water? It's in the water to prevent tooth decay. It's a good thing, right? That's what they want you to believe.
Dude, the fact that you can't drink water out of a river anywhere.
Stop right there. You know what? Fluoride protects your teeth and is perfectly healthy for you. Well, if Jim says that, then he is a lying idiot. And if you believe it, then so are you.
Fast forward to today, and fluoride is still a really big household name. And anyone who questions it is instantly labeled as a conspiracy theorist of Alex Jones standards. And anyone who brings up fluoride to Congress gets questioned.
You cited several studies, which were very interesting. Are these basically independent studies with no peer review, or has there been sufficient peer review to give these studies more credibility or not?
But the reality is, fluoride is a double-edged sword. On one side, it is a miracle for your teeth. But on the other hand, too much of it can cause a whole bunch of disorders and diseases. And the scientific community has been fighting over this for decades. Phyllis's study was criticized for using too much fluoride in her water at 5 parts per million, whereas the US government's recommendation at the time was 1 part per million. But think about this. Just because you mix fluoride into the water supply at 1 parts per million doesn't mean that's what people are actually consuming. What about all the food products that are made with fluoridated water? Raisins contain fluoride at 2.34 parts per million, wine at 2.02 parts per million, and black tea at 3.73.
Is that when I drank a Coke, when I drank Snapple tea, when I drank grape juice, that I was really adding to my body burden of fluoride with all these others.
The American people, and especially our children, are getting way too much fluoride. 2/3 of children living in fluoridated communities have dental fluorosis in at least 1 tooth. Dental fluorosis is the visible manifestation of toxic overexposure to fluoride during their developmental years.
And let's not forget the undisclosed dumping of fluoride by factories into the water and air. So that 1 parts per million turns to 2 parts, 3 parts, 4 parts pretty fast, with fluoridated water at 4 ppm being found to cause bone fractures and skeletal fluorosis in children. It all depends on how much fluoride you actually consume, not how much the government dumps in the water supply, which is next to impossible for the average person to calculate. And I'm sure you're wondering, why aren't we all passing out from fluoride poisoning every time we brush our teeth or drink a glass of water? Well, it's because we're consuming fluoride in super small doses, like a poison drip. And every time we drink it, our system filters some of it out, but not all of it. One study showed that only 50% of fluoride gets filtered out of the body. So where does the rest go? It gets absorbed into your bones. And according to Phyllis, it also absorbs into your brain, 1 drop at a time.
Calories, so I'm gonna bite grass. Now, that's got fluoride in it.
And fluoride is far from the only questionable thing in our modern diet. Next up on evil food supply. We're going to expose today's artificial meat industry and how they've hijacked your compassion for animals to sell you fake meat made out of cheap, profitable, synthetic chemicals. Click the card on the screen to watch now, or subscribe if it's not out yet.
All right, there you go. Should be all set.
Well, thank you so much, sir.
Oh, wait.
What?
Don't open that yet.
Don't open it?
Just wait till tomorrow morning. It's got to run through its cycle.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense, yeah.
And thank you for shopping at Mortimer's Extremely Antique Shop.
It was my pleasure.
Have a good day.
Tomorrow morning. Okie doke.
Listen, I love my wife, but she's got way too much diarrhea.
Yeah.
Diarrhea city over here. You know, when I kiss her, I just can't help but think about the diarrhea coming out of her teeth.
What the hell is this thing?
Sorry, what thing?
What is what? The thing that just came out of my fridge.
Oh, you're the fridge guy.
Yeah, I'm the fridge guy.
Yeah, it comes with the fridge.
It comes with the fridge.
You bought the fridge, it comes with the fridge.
What is it?
I mean, it's kind of like a gremlin.
How is this like a gremlin?
I mean, you got it from an antique shop, and it has rules.
No. I bought a fridge from an antique shop, and it has rules?
Yeah.
What are the rules?
I'm hungry.
Oh, Jesus fucking
I'm
Christ,
hungry.
he talks?
I mean, yeah, it's like gremlins.
Stop saying it's like gremlins.
I'm like a gremlin. I'm like a gremlin.
Well, it's like a gremlin. It's similar. It's akin to a gremlin.
This is not a gremlin. This is like a fish guy. It's like that from that Guillermo del Toro movie.
Yeah, no, it's not like The Shape of Water.
What do you mean it's nothing like The Shape of Water? It's a fish guy.
I want to see a rainbow.
At least the fish in The Shape of Water was like hot. He was like toned.
You thought the fish guy was hot in that movie?
Everyone thought it was hot. I'm not weird for thinking that.
I'm hot.
No, not everyone. You're pretty weird for that.
I want to go paint a plate.
He wants to do arts and crafts.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Make love to me.
Now he wants me to make love to him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not one of the rules. You can do whatever.
I don't want to do that.
Why not? Let's make love. It's something to do.
All right, you don't have to.
I'm a little bit like Short Circuit.
He's saying he's like Short Circuit.
Nothing like Short Circuit.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's nothing like Short Circuit.
I'm just like Short Circuit or Gremlins.
Hold on a second. Let me look through this rule book.
I want to go to the bridge.
Why didn't you give me the book?
I only have one copy.
I want to go to the bridge on the 15th Street.
Can you copy the book and send it to me?
It's a big book. It'd take forever.
Take me to the bridge, please, at 15th and Olive.
No, do not take him to the bridge.
What do you mean no?
It says here he has a quest, and you cannot let him complete it. Do not let him complete the quest.
It has a quest.
I have a quest, and I will complete it.
Tell me again how this is like a gremlin.
That's like the one difference.
I have to fight the mole man.
What happens if he completes his quest?
He has my toothbrush.
As far as you know, there is no quest.
As far as I know, you told me he has a quest. Now I'm not going to stop thinking about his quest.
There's no quest, there's no mole man, there's no toothbrush.
I want an iPad. Buy me an iPad.
He wants an iPad. I don't have an iPad.
Oh, that's new. I haven't heard that yet.
Get me an iPad, please.
I have like a second generation one somewhere, but it's like broken.
Let's watch Terms of Endearment.
I don't know what that is.
I need to find a plastic surgeon.
You want surgery?
I'm one surgery.
You want surgery?
I'm one surgery away from perfection.
No, don't let him do that, actually, no.
You don't need any surgeries. You're beautiful the way you are, okay?
I want to go to Cedar Point, Ohio, and ride roller coasters.
He wants to go to Cedar Point.
Don't take him to Cedar Point.
Why not? Is that part of his quest?
No, not part of the quest. I just don't want him to have too much fun.
No Cedar Point.
I want to go to the State Fair, please.
State Fair?
It's not that fun. You can take him.
You want to go to the State Fair, buddy?
I can't wait to see the exhibits at the State Fair.
Hey guys, before you go, there's actually a second animation that came out today. Justin Roiland did a special for Hulu called the Poloni Show Halloween Special, and it's an anthology of shorts, and he had me make a short for it. And mine actually stars Tom Kenny, so there's a Joel Haver animated short starring Tom Kenny, which is so surreal to me. It's one of my favorite animations I've ever done. Justin gave me full creative freedom, so that was really awesome. Watch the whole special. It's got some...
Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you somebody decided to break the law because, oh no, Their software might have been getting downloaded. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know some of y'all come to this channel for some virus investigations. And, you know, I got a virus for you today. Now, the definition of malware, okay, is malware is any software intentionally designed to cause disruption to a computer, server, client, or computer network. Leak private information, gain unauthorized access. Yeah, you know, things that are highly illegal, by the way, too. Now, of course, I could jump into this and talk about the illegality, but I don't think it's too far yet. Now, when it comes to really cringy things from game developers and modding communities, remember back when we looked at Sonic Gather Battle? Oh no, my sprite, my recolors are getting stolen. Better inject malware. Yeah, we got another situation here. So anybody that plays Final Fantasy XIV probably knows that some software, in particular G-Shade, just got caught infecting their users' computers with malware. A little present, if you will, because one of the developers was afraid that their beautiful, lovely shaders might be getting stolen. Now, for anybody that knows about, you know, computer graphics, do you like good graphics? Okay, do you like really good graphics? Do you have computer hardware to spare when you're playing video games? Chances are, if you're a PC gamer, you've probably downloaded programs like Reshade. I use Reshade all the time for single-player games, okay? So if I know that I've got, like, 500 frames rendering on a video game, and I'm like, dang, I could make this look better. I could put in some ray tracing, some post-processing. Maybe the anti-aliasing is crap. Well, using tools like Reshade, I can download it from their website, inject it into the game of my choice, and using a keyboard command, I can open up a little prompt that'll let me inject any type of post-processing tool that I want. Again, anti-aliasing, I can make it better. Ambient occlusion, make it better. Ray tracing, I can put it in somehow into the game. It's not going to be perfect, but it's there. This is a tool that a lot of PC gamers use to just make games look better, okay? Remastering old games, you can kind of do it through Reshade. You know all those YouTube videos of GTA 5 Maximum Graphics 2023 Edition 4K? Yeah, a lot of them, beyond having like Los Santos Tsunami mods, actually use Reshade in order to create better looking visuals with modern hardware. If you've got the hardware to spare, then you might as well be using it to make your games look better. So Final Fantasy XIV being an MMO, obviously it's MMO games typically don't have like high graphical like outputs or really high computer requirements. So if you've got stuff to spare, you can make the game look better and genuinely get a sweet experience out of it.
Make the game look better.
But of course, that requires you to download a tool. Now, me personally, I only use Reshade. Why? Because Reshade is open source, ladies and gentlemen, meaning that I and various other people who know what they're talking about, who know what to look for, can audit the code from time to time and make sure they're not installing anything weird. Okay, simple as that. All right. Generally, stuff gets put into open source programs that is malicious, but because we can see the code, you can obviously identify if something's a little sussy-wussy. With a closed source program like G-Shade, it's very difficult to do that because you don't have the ability to look through the code. You can decompile, you can do a bunch of different, things, but generally, you're literally installing proprietary stuff on your computer. So there's a level of trust involved, especially when it's ingesting itself into programs or getting a deeper access to your computer. So what is the code? Using a decompiler, a .NET decompiler, we were able to see that in the G-Shade installer code, they had a little sussy process. So process, new process, start info working directory, environment system directory, file name shutdown.exe. Okay, so basically it's the shutdown prompt on your system. It'll immediately shut down your computer, your Windows computer, and call it a day. So again, if you're caught tampering, if you will, it'll just shut your system down. No questions asked. Again, this is the very definition of malware. Doing things on your computer you didn't want. Luckily, they weren't exfiltrating any data or stealing things as far as I know, but they were doing things like putting in basic malware. Why? I guess to stop... Actually, you know what? I'm not going to put words in the dev's mouth. Let's listen to the dev itself. Hello, anti-tampering code is not unusual in proprietary software. Bro, you're a fork of Reshade. Stop it. Seek help. It is impossible to trigger the code by running the G-Shade installer as a normal end user in any fashion. You must call the individual functions of the app from an external third-party program designed to utilize its functions in a clandestine fashion. This is meant to be a lesson to you, specifically, about taking this approach to the problem. Anything could have been in the payload, and you had been responsible for distributing it to people and triggering it. Well, I put this disgusting code into the program, but you're at fault for triggering it. What? I chose a restart specifically because I wanted something that was still completely harmless, which it is, but slightly more noticeable than a quick process kill, considering it's similar to what anti-cheat software does when something particularly bad turns up. So he's right in a lot of ways when you use anti-cheat software, or you are using programs that typically try to hide themselves from being analyzed. Those programs will quickly terminate their processes. Okay, I have to like stop for a second because I know YouTube bots be triggering when I use actual genuine computer speak. But what's kind of going on in this situation is, have you ever there's a lot of software that I've looked at for virus investigations, which typically did terminate itself whenever it detected itself within virtual machines or something of that nature. So typically it was a matter of finding out what would trip that specific flag in a piece of malware or in a piece of computer code that you would work your way around. So what was effectively happening was if this program, this G-Shade, the installer, detected any suspicious behavior on its part, it would just restart your computer. Again, very annoying things to do, and it is, again, straight up malware.
I got you.
Morad should not be.
You're good.
Morad,
See, you're safe.
You should not be actually defended or anything in this capacity.
Woo.
This is an insane. Yeah. This is basically all the trust you could have for your program gone and thrown out into the wind. Nobody should download a tool like this where the developer is putting stuff like this into a post-processing graphic enhancement tool, for crying out loud. So again, as part of a conflict with third parties attempting to redistribute copyright assets within G-Shade without permission, an anti-tampering function was added to G-Shade's installer to trigger restarts in the event that a third-party external software library utilized the installation functions without actually running it. It was not possible to trigger this function by running the G-Shade installer normally. Again, we removed it, and it'll never be re-implemented again. You've lost all your trust in this capacity. Any computer program caught doing this should never be trusted by anybody. It's one of the reasons why I only use Reshade. Again, it's open source, we can audit and we can verify it before we actually launch it. Anytime I run any of these programs, which, by the way, I could never understand why anybody would use G-Shade in the first place, because Reshade is already super solid enough. I guess maybe you get a bit more optimizations with this, but again, please just stick with the open source software instead, for crying out loud. Because the Final Fantasy 14 community was really pissed about this guy actually ended up getting banned from the entire Discord and Reddit communities entirely. Now, to understand, I don't know why anybody, would use a modification for a multiplayer game, First off, that's like walking into a minefield. Now, to understand, I play GTA Online. I used to play some FF14 Online until I didn't really have time for it. And the thing with any multiplayer game is that typically they are loaded with anti-cheats, and there's always some level of checking that goes on. I would never, ever advise that you use Reshade, G-Shade, any of these tools to inject itself into a program that is connected like a multiplayer, like an MMO or a competitive game. Because any time, any update, any assessment, any memory check could possibly trip in your account being banned. I would never recommend it. Even the actual developers behind Final Fantasy XIV literally say the same. As updated and stated in the TOS, the use of third-party tools, that includes Reshade, G-Shade, whatever, is strictly prohibited, And again, they define the third-party tools as tools that allow users to more easily complete content, so basically hacks, modifications of the UI to display additional information. That's a very loose definition, Maybe a graphical enhancement could, I don't know, maybe display some additional information visually, I don't know. Use of packet spoofing tools, obviously highly illicit. Any action or public statements that promote the use of third-party tools. Again, even the developers here don't want you necessarily using it. And they literally say, right here, hacks or alterations of a program that can allow impossible things to happen. But they also say that there is a problem with an infection by viruses or spyware that steal passwords after downloading third-party tools and plugins. So again, I think the problem with this is because of the negative press this has gotten and because of the actual drama it's caused, they might actually cause the FF14 developers to cause an even harder stance on these kind of tools, which would be a net negative for the community, but I can't blame them either. When the community is filled with absolute dunces like this that are committing actual illicit actions in regards to spreading a mod, a graphics mod for a video game, okay? Insanity indeed. A great example is like right over here, the installer is going through, and if it detects any shady behavior, boom, restarts right there. Not exactly good behavior to have, period. It's interesting that even when I tried to look up their FAQ, by the way, page not found, they got rid of it immediately because it got so much backlash. But even inside their actual like FAQ, they literally spend more time like role-playing some weird rambly nonsense. You have come here seeking knowledge of the bad times, and knowledge you will find in the ages before G-Shade. Yeah, they're literally saying how the community was shit before 3. Others used a fork called Storm Shade, which frequently went out of sync. Others used Moogle Shade, which also suffered from texture replacement issues. Bro, they're literally spending their time bad-mouthing their competition, and then also injecting straight-up malware into their system. Get the fuck out of here. There would be no answer to the cries of the community, and the solution to their peril would only come from the things of the great need of the group of posers who sought to load presets from many creators for their work in producing a magazine, toiling away in secret, testing, discerning the trends mundane. A tool was carefully crafted. Ah, sweet Lois, a schizo thread. Stay away. When they start talking like that in the FAQ and the readme.md, you run. To uninstall G-Shade right now, if you have it installed, for instance, because you might be like, but Muda, I have this crap installed. Make sure it's installed and updated, probably the case. Download a file called reshade from GitHub. Again, I don't even recommend you go down this way. Just completely wipe from scratch, okay? That's all I'm going to say. And of course, following these steps, you can actually like make sure your reshade presets are backed up, and you can like actually use the open source Chad reshade instead of this crap fest. And then I'm going to say a computer restart is not malicious. That's the odd threshold for malware. Hey, buddy, malware is literally doing unintrusive things on my system, okay? A restart or shutting down my computer is, in fact, straight-up malware. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please get rid of G-Shade if you're actually using it for any game, really, and just stick to the Chad open source reshade. Simple as that, okay? That's pretty much what it comes down to. But yeah, this is how a developer for a popular mod absolutely killed their community within one update, because they were afraid that there was going to be some downloading of those shadows. God, some of the saddest shit that I've ever seen. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to go load up some Persona 5 Royale, okay? Single player, going to run...
Above the skies of a distant planet, a ship journey ends in tragedy. One boy reaches the surface, but he's not alone. Oh, that's a glitchy ass looking egg.
Take a look at this.
What up, Higgs? What are you saying, son?
Indicate that this is a high-risk area, mainly on account of it being a tyrannosaur's nest.
But that's not great, then, is it?
Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's great to see all of you in Seattle in person. We have an unbelievable show. I see Scott Guthrie's even wore his red shirt. So we welcome you to the Azure Kubernetes Container Service 2023 launch. No, don't worry. We'll have some fun. We will have some fun. You know, Scott's not coming up to show you code on screen anytime soon. But look, it's an exciting time in tech. You know, the broad contours of this next platform are just getting clearer and clearer each day. The advances, what's possible, that's what obviously excites us in our industry. But we're also grounded in what's happening in the broader world. There's no question there are enormous challenges out there.
Ah, meat. The most dopamine
easy way to get protein into the human body? Flesh. Have you ever taken a big bite of heated flesh only to find a blob of skin, shards of bone, or a rubbery chunk of cartilage? This minor inconvenience may have been acceptable.
Hey Vinny, how you doing?
Man, but not to the modern flesh ingester. So we at Horton Farms found a solution. Our skilled technicians simply grind up all that business until you can't tell it's not meat and call that meat. We can then form it into discs, loaves, balls, or square patties. Whatever shape you want, really. The discs are winning, so let's run with that. Tubes are also popular. As has been observed, most folks don't really want to know how the tubes get made. At Horton Farms, our flesh tube making process begins and ends with a high-quality intestinal lining. I should note there's no oversight as to what constitutes high quality. I'm just allowed to call things that. This human actor represents a human Horton Farms butcher, which in turn represents a machine I own. My machine stuffs any combination of mangled flesh, fat, and spices into a casing that's been colored to appeal to your lizard brain. If you think about it, it's like a sick joke, wrapping an animal inside other parts of itself, but you probably won't think about it. In 1959, we identified an enzyme called transglutaminase, better known as meat glue. It's great at bonding protein and protein byproducts together. We use it to make your steak or chicken breast look like you want it to. It doesn't actually look like that, but in the end it's all poop anyway, so who cares? Transglutaminase is made from guinea pig liver. Look! Hot dogs in front of an American flag! We've also found ways to breed animals to grow larger, less healthy, and therefore tastier. For example, most factory farm turkeys are so bulky that they can't procreate themselves. Yes, someone had to manually facilitate turkey sex for me to be able to eat this. But look at this thing. It's huge. I love this thing. I feel like a Viking right now. The way we see it, if chickens or cows were advanced enough to find a way to grind us into edible tubes, they'd probably do it. We did. And that's what makes us great. We did it first, and probably last. Suck it, all the other animals. Some of you watching this are vegetarians, and that's terrible. Oh, sure, it's a lifestyle that uses less water and is healthier, but it doesn't taste as good. It's not as patriotic. See, in America, eating meat is part of our national character. It's what farmers, dads, and astronauts eat. We even have a USDA choice grade sticker that looks like an America badge. So, buy Horton Farms brand animal carcass. We kill the animal for you, reconstitute its flesh, and present it in a way that allows you to forget it once had parents. What more do you want? Thank you. Oh, I'm larger, by the way. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave us some comments. Join up, and share. And maybe we'll look at some more meat, huh?
Why do some artists sell their work for tens or hundreds of thousands?
More meat, huh? How about let's look at some meat?
Why do some artists sell their...
While you were distracted by inflation in Ukraine, China and Russia have been secretly stockpiling gold at an unprecedented rate.
Is China stockpiling gold? As the World Gold Council has reported a sharp rise in gold purchases by the central banks around the world, the Council's November report states that central banks bought over 399 tons of gold between July and September this year.
Why? Because they are prepared for something massive. And Vladimir Putin just unveiled their plan to the world, a new global reserve currency, a currency that they want to replace the dollar with as the new reserve currency of the world.
Well, analysts continue to speculate on the implications of an international reserve currency planned by Russia and China.
If China and Russia manage to pull this off, it will change everything. America would no longer be the global superpower anymore. It would be cataclysmic to the U.S. economy. And it would usher in a new era, a new world order. A new world order where China and Russia would be the ones calling the shots, not America. And it's not as if their plan is even that far-fetched. After World War II, America did almost the exact same thing, where they single-handedly strong-armed the world into accepting the dollar as the new global reserve. But that was close to around 80 years ago. Today, America is not in as strong of a position to strong-arm the world. Today, America is in the decline. It's racked up an impossible amount of debts. It's printed the dollar into almost non-existence. The money printing during COVID has left even the common man wondering how long the music can last. And just like every other currency in history, it's not a matter of if the dollar will go to zero, but when. The US dollar is on the last 1% of its purchasing power. It's on its last dying breath. This last dying breath could last a few years or a few decades. No one knows for sure, but all signs point to something big happening in the next few years. But you don't have to look at the graphs to know this. If you live in America, you can just feel it in the air. The future feels bleak. Every year seems to get crazier than the last. Our trust in government is at an all-time low. It feels like we're slowly headed towards a waterfall. And Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping are trying their damnedest to cash in on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If this plan works, China and Russia will become invincible. In America, all that power it's been enjoying for decades, it will be stripped away by force. This is the first video in a two-part series on the upcoming New World Order, and to understand it, we have to take a trip back to the end of World War II. Now, geopolitics is scary and all, but you know what else is scary?
Premature ejaculation. Finishing too fast in bed, which 30% of you probably have. Or even worse, erectile dysfunction. Not being able to get it up, which half of you might have. So if you want better sex this year, you should definitely get treated. But going to a doctor's office and admitting that you can't get it up is a big hassle. But lucky for you, that is where Roman comes in. Roman is the digital health clinic for men. Roman lets consult with US licensed healthcare providers. It allows you to get personalized treatment, and you can even get prescription medication shipped discreetly right to your door when appropriate. It's just a super simple digital experience from the comfort of your own home. Roman even offers discreet wipes that help you last 4 times longer in bed, no prescription needed. And Roman goes much further than just treating premature ejaculation or ED. You can go to them for hair loss, skin treatment, and so much more. So say goodbye to long wait times, awkward in-person visits, and the stress of not being able to take care of your health. Because with Roman, you get the care you need when you need it. Use my unique link below or go to ro.co/jtrend for 20% off your first order today. That's ro.co/jtrend for 20% off your order. Thanks to Roman for sponsoring this video.
At Brettonwood, New Hampshire, delegates from 44 allied and associate countries arrived for the opening of the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference. Invited by President Roosevelt to the first major world financial meeting since the London Conference of 1933, we discussed our plans for the stabilization of world currencies. All agreements must be ratified by the governing bodies of the nations involved before becoming effective.
The American dollar has been the reserve currency of the world ever since the Bretton Woods Conference in 1944.
These meetings are designed to promote trade in the post-war world and to create a foundation for lasting peace.
After World War II, America had the strongest military and held the most gold. So it made sense for the gold-backed dollar to become the currency that all other countries base the value of their currencies on.
The strength of a nation's currency is based on the strength of that nation's economy. And the American economy is by far the strongest in the world.
And that gave America an insane advantage. Being the global reserve meant America could secretly print as much money as it wanted without the dollar ever losing value. And it didn't take long for that ability to go to America's head, which ultimately led to the collapse of the Bretton Woods system in 1971.
We must protect the position of the American dollar. I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets and in the best interest of the United States.
This left America with no way to force the world into using the dollar as the reserve. If no one needed gold to give their money value anymore, no one would need America's dollars or the gold by which it was backed. If America wanted the dollar to stay almighty, it would have to figure out a way to force the world to keep using it. Enter the petrodollar. See, back in 1973, things were not going well between America and the oil-rich countries in the Middle East. In the space of just a few months, these oil countries pretty much quadrupled oil prices, which led to a crazy fuel shortage all over America. As we've mentioned before on this channel, which you should definitely subscribe to, oil is the lifeblood of an empire. A small oil shortage can bring an empire like the US to its knees. Think about it, without oil, factories were shut down, production collapses, people can't drive to work. So it's no wonder why America has been willing to wage war in the name of oil. And it's also no wonder why during this oil crisis, America had to do whatever it took to ensure that they would never be at the whim of these hostile oil countries ever again. So in 1974, America's new Treasury Secretary, a guy named William Simon, was sent to make a deal with Saudi Arabia, one of the biggest oil producers in the world. In this proposal, Saudi Arabia makes a new law that says it will only sell oil in US dollars, no matter who is trying to buy oil from them, and in exchange, America would provide the kingdom with all the military training, weapons, and modern infrastructure that it could dream of. It was a win-win situation. Because Saudi Arabia was one of the biggest oil producers, them selling oil in dollars would force other countries to have to buy dollars in order to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, which would make other oil countries have to sell their oil in dollars if they wanted to compete. And boom, just like that, the world would be reliant on dollars. But it doesn't stop there. Since America was in control of the money printer, whenever it needed more oil, it could just print more dollars, which meant that thanks to this deal with Saudi Arabia, it would never face an oil shortage again. It's hard to put into words how vital this was to America's global domination. This allowed America to practically get free oil, because all they had to do was print more dollars. And since this forced the world to trade in dollars, it meant that whenever America printed more money, the rest of the world would have to bear the brunt of their dollars getting weaker. Saudi Arabia would also win in this arrangement from being the main seller of oil to America. And on top of that, they would have the most powerful country in the world, the most powerful military in the world in their corner. Their safety and their future was now guaranteed, and no one would ever dare touch them. And boom, just like that, an unholy alliance was cemented between America and a kingdom with a lot of human rights problems. The petrodollar became America's superpower, a superpower that it would protect at any cost.
Oh, my lovely pretty babies. Oh, my lovely pretty babies. Daddy's babies.
When Saddam Hussein announced that Iraq would start selling oil in euros instead of dollars, guess what happened? America invaded them in an operation ironically called Operation Iraqi Freedom. America was in search of weapons of mass destruction, and although WMDs were never found, conveniently 3 months later the country was back to selling oil in dollars.
But the U.S. invasion of 2003 set the country's oil industry safely back into dollar denomination.
When Hugo Chavez of Venezuela said he was going to do the same thing, stop selling oil in dollars, the U.S. backed a coup against him that ultimately failed. And when Muammar Gaddafi of Libya suggested that all Muslim and African nations buy oil from Libya using gold instead of dollars, and that they were going to launch a new gold-backed currency, well, America started a civil war that led to Gaddafi being executed by U.S.-backed rebels in 2011.
This is an incredibly gruesome scene. These are completely destroyed vehicles. Everywhere I'm looking now is littered with bodies, and they're talking about the secret burial of Gaddafi. But here is where those who were with him on Thursday morning died.
The connection between oil and the dollar is what kept the dollar at the top of the food chain for nearly half a century. It's what allowed America to print a psychotic amount of money during COVID and still be left standing somehow. And every time some small, insignificant country would try to stand up against the petrodollar, America would crush them back into submission. But this time is different. This time it's not some weak, insignificant country threatening the petrodollar. This time it's China and Russia. And unlike their previous enemies, China and Russia aren't scared by sanctions or the threat of invasion.
Didn't mean to sit on him.
Which means this time, they might actually have a shot at dethroning the dollar once and for all. Russia have been trying to get out from under the dollar's influence for decades now. But as long as the dollar is the global reserve, that is kind of impossible. Almost every financial system in the world is based on the dollar. Most of China and Russia's imports and exports are paid for in dollars. And even though they hate to admit it, their own economies heavily rely on the dollar. But if Russia and China could find a way to replace the dollar as their own reserve, if they could find a way to convince a decent amount of other countries to do the same, they would be out from under America's control forever. And trying to find a replacement for the dollar isn't exactly a new thing for these two. Rumors have been circulating for years about the possibility of Russia and China creating a new digital currency backed by gold. In 2015, China even created its own alternative to SWIFT, which is what most countries use to transfer money internationally. But no one believed that they would actually be able to pull it off. That wasn't until earlier this year when Russia and China suddenly started buying up a lot more gold than usual. And unlike the dollar, which is now backed by debts and by everyone's faith in the US governments, China and Russia want to create a new reserve currency based on gold, just like the dollar used to be before 1971. This would give their currency actual real value. It would give people a reason to trust and use this new currency, because at least theoretically they wouldn't be able to print more of it on the fly. So China and Russia's recent interest in buying gold is a pretty good sign that something is happening. Officially, Russia and China have the 6th and 7th largest stockpiles of gold, right behind America, Germany, the IMF, Italy, and France. But the official numbers are a little deceiving. See, if you're planning on threatening the petrodollar, which has a track record of ending in either death or invasion, you're not going to be bragging about your gold stockpiles prematurely. You're going to collect the gold quietly and announce your plans when the time is right. And that's exactly what Russia and China have been doing. Officially, China has just under 2,000 tons of gold in reserve. That's nothing compared to America's over 8,000 tons, right? But what about China's unofficial reserves? For the past 10 years, China has been producing 15% of all the gold mined in the world, or at least 6,800 tons. And more than half of all of China's gold production is state-owned, meaning the Chinese government is in direct control of at least half of that 6,800 tons for the past 10 years. And you still expect us to believe that China's gold reserves are just under 2,000 tons in total?
Not stupid, you know.
Especially when China is known to lie about numbers all the time. And what about gold imports? Since the year 2000, more than 6,700 tons of gold have been imported into China just through Hong Kong alone. And that's not even including the gold imported through other hubs like Dubai and Switzerland. And since the start of this year, these numbers have only gone up. In October 2022, Switzerland exported over 80 tons of gold with $4.4 billion to mainland China. Still believe China's gold reserves are as low as they say they are? And Russia isn't far behind. Russia has been on a gold buying spree ever since it got slapped with sanctions for invading Crimea in 2014. And Russia recently started expanding its gold mining operations all over Africa to increase their supply.
For millennia, Sudan has produced some of the most sought-after gold in the world. And Putin's private army, the notorious paramilitary group Wagner's tentacles stretch right across Africa. We've discovered some of its most notorious operatives are working on Sudan.
So even though it's safe to say Russia alone doesn't have more gold than America, China definitely might. And together, their gold reserves could be a serious threat to the dominance of the dollar.
The Chinese finance minister has previously announced that their intention is to have more gold than the U.S. So the U.S. purportedly has 8,000 tons, which a lot of people have questioned because there hasn't been an audit done since the 1950s. But let's assume they do have 8,000 tons. China buys its gold through the Sovereign Wealth Fund and is currently the #1 gold producer in the world. But any of the gold that's produced by China is kept in China. It doesn't go outside of China, so it doesn't enter the gold market. Same thing happens for Russia. And Russia, I think, is the #2 or 3 gold producer. They're keeping all their gold. But what China does is they buy the gold in the Sovereign Wealth Fund, and that doesn't report anything to anybody. And the central bank purportedly only has 1,600 tons. Now, many people think that China already has well in excess of 6,000 tons in the Sovereign Wealth Fund, and China really isn't going to make an announcement that they have more gold to the U.S. until they feel the time is right.
There's just one problem. Creating a new reserve currency is going to take more than just 2 countries. It's called a global reserve currency for a reason. Which means if China and Russia want to dethrone the dollar, they would have to get a whole bunch of other countries to join them, which is a lot easier said than done. Getting the world to switch reserve currencies is kind of like trying to get America to switch to the metric system. Even though the metric system is better, it is next to impossible. The old way of doing things has a stickiness to them, and it takes a very dramatic event to make a change. The last event to do that was World War II. Remember the petrodollar? The deal with Saudi Arabia that forced nearly all oil-rich countries in the world to sell their oil in dollars? The deal that cemented the dollar to stay the global reserve after America went off the gold standard? Yeah, well, as long as that deal stays in place, creating a new reserve currency would be nearly impossible. How could Russia and China expect anyone to adopt a new reserve currency if they couldn't even buy oil with it? Oil is still the lifeblood of every country, so there's no way anyone would switch to a new reserve currency if it meant they couldn't buy oil anymore. unless China and Russia find a way to sabotage that relationship between America and Saudi Arabia. If they could somehow convince Saudi Arabia to leave that deal with America and stop selling their oil in dollars, it would change everything. It would undo everything. And it would mean the end of America's reign. And guess what? Saudi Arabia is looking to do just that.
They have a great desire, and they are not the only country that is finding the BRICS family or formation attractive because of what BRICS stands for.
And no mainstream Western news outlets are reporting on it.
Next time on XReality.
President Biden is bashing Saudi Arabia. That's a big mistake.
The U.S. is furious about OPEC's decision to cut oil production. President Joe Biden has spoken of reevaluating.
Why do some artists sell their work for tens or hundreds of thousands, while other artists who frankly are just as talented struggle day after day, week after week, to earn even minimum wage as an artist? What's the secret? If you've never wondered this, skip this video, otherwise give me 30 seconds to explain. So I'm sure you've been on social media and you've seen artists sharing their work. Abstract art, graffiti, street art.
Can I have your hat? I want to make the child cry.
Cutting your funding, Bryce.
I'm sorry, you want to try that again in English?
We allotted you those funds to build 3 children's hospitals. Instead, you built 10 prisons.
They're cheaper, and kids just suck.
I'm sorry, Bryce, but we are cutting your funding.
I heard you the first time, I just didn't agree. Now, unless you have anything positive to say about my looks, I don't see any reason for this to continue.
There, with charity being dirty.
You hear that? I goddamn do charity.
Yeah, for people with what? Insider info?
Cancer.
Oh, well, still, you're not getting another cent from my company. Try anything and you'll sue me in court.
Donovan, our investor has just crossed a line. Now, you see, a monster would not tell your wife and kids where your body can be found tonight. But because I'm such a caring person, your kids can rest easy knowing their daddy never abandoned them. I do have a heart, Mr. Dutton, and it is about as large as your penis. Get me cleaned up, Donovan. I want to look like I give a shit at that cancer thing.
She's one of the most influential CEOs in all of American history. But is she more than just a corporate sex icon?
Activate the Beyonce.
The internet is absolutely obsessed with this woman. There isn't a ticker or a talker who doesn't wish to one day be Bryce Tankthrust. And she might not be your president, but she certainly was America.
How about it for a stimulus package, America? I said it on tape.
Show the tape. Put it on your website.
Oh, you mean eatmyassjoe.org? Stay tuned, poor people.
And let's not forget that she just got married to horny terrorist Bobby Wurst. The evil ones were recently spotted honeymooning at North Korean Pride. And rumor has it a literal heart has started growing inside that empty void of a chest. Will she retain that evil edge that's gotten her so far? Or will she now start going soft?
I'm cutting your funding.
I'm sorry?
You said you wanted to help us. Well, I didn't think you'd live this long. I'm sorry, you thought we were dying? Look, I don't know how cancer works.
Ma'am, we don't have cancer. This is a charity for people born June through July 22nd.
Your money goes to the mental health of cancers who are bullied simply for being a crab. Wait, hold on. Are you fucking kidding me? I've been dumping cash into this glory hole for how many years?
It's been 9 months, man.
Shut the fuck up, you crap. That was rhetorical. Look, with the money I'm saving, with whatever this is, you people should be happy to know that I'm going to build my 11th prison.
What happened to you in your childhood to make you such a monster?
What happened in your childhood that made you so poor?
No. I'm actually asking, why are you
What, being good with my money? I started learning frugality the very day I was born.
The head's too big, ma'am.
What do you want me to do about it?
We're gonna need to perform a C-section.
What's that gonna set me back?
Ma'am, you need this.
That means expensive. My mother always knew the value in pinching a penny. She was a con artist, you see, and a damn good one. By the time I was 10, she decided it was time you finally grew up. Today, I'm going to teach you the double diva diversion.
The diva?
The double diva diversion, yes. Her mother and her performed it, and now she and I got to. The maneuver consisted of one person distracting an individual, often by flirting, while the other person robs them blind. I don't know why she called it the double diva diversion, because it was apparent only one of us was allowed to be the diva. She was the beautiful distraction, and I was the petty thief who lived in her shadow. Of course, I justified it as a means to live. We were just keeping the lights on, that's all. But what I would have given just to be that distraction, just for once, just to have men look at me the way they looked at her, I was willing to get that validated.
Have you noticed recently that not all of your money is in your bank account? Perhaps you've noticed that your direct deposits are having issues. Maybe you've got a direct deposit, but all of it's not there. Maybe a portion of it is missing for some reason. Have you experienced this? Let us know. We actually have a poll up right now, and you can drop us a comment below if you're watching us later. You're not alone, though, if you're experiencing this, because, in fact, we here at Redacted have been hearing from a number of you. And as many of you have said now, we've had thousands of people vote in our poll, and you've all been experiencing issues. Turns out you're not alone in this. Well, we're going to have more on exactly what's happening to these bank accounts in just a moment. But first, something big is happening to our money supply. And the banking system is starting to freak out a little bit. They don't say this publicly, but they're starting to freak out. And my question is, are we about to learn that the emperor has no clothes? Like,
I have a question.
Yeah, fire away.
Just to see if it's related, because I just had this recently, never had it happen before. I have an Apple credit card. It's backed by Goldman Sachs. And generally when I make my payment, that money is available instantly. I made a payment this week, and I called them. I was like, this money isn't showing up. They said, yeah, you've got a 10-day hold now on that money. It already came out of my bank, but it is not showing on the Apple card because they said it's going to take 10 days. I'm like, 10 days? So I asked for it to be escalated, and they said they'll escalate it, but it'll take 10 days or so for somebody to respond.
Which is so interesting, because this is one of the main arguments behind going to a Bitcoin type or a blockchain type currency, is that you wouldn't have to go through this ancient infrastructure, that money would be immediately available, although it's a much less efficient transaction. Blockchain transactions take a lot longer than, say, bank-related transactions, but at least there would not, yeah.
I thought it was the opposite.
No. I think
in
that
the interviews that I've done on blockchain with blockchain technologists say it's instantaneous, and whereas the wire transfers can take,
for
hours.
Consumer purchases, they cannot process consumer purchases in the same speed as, say,
like if you go to the store.
Yes.
Those transactions.
Yes. But say, bank-to-bank, person-to-person transfer would be much more efficient. So it's interesting that this is proving itself to us before our very eyes.
So, are we looking at the emperor has no clothes here? Or are we, to put it another way, are we learning now that the banks have no money in their vaults and they're ready to take your money instead? Just yesterday, Bank of America issued this alert. Bank of America is still forecasting 2023 recession. Fed action not enough. An odd alert, actually, saying that they're forecasting a massive recession for 2023. And they went further to say that the federal government is not doing enough to stop it. What the federal government is doing won't stop it. It's odd that they're putting this out. So just to put a pin in that for a moment, because Bank of America, we'll use that name because Bank of America making this statement. So just remember Bank of America for a moment. But first, really important to provide some context, and for that we need to go back to the year 2013. Travel with me, if you will, back to the Mediterranean island of Cyprus. In 2013, following the collapse of the housing market in the United States, that calamity flowed to Europe in a domino effect for the small Mediterranean country of Cyprus. Remember this?
Outside the banks, the lines are long, customers worried.
You don't have cash now, can't do anything.
The banks haven't opened for 7 days, so Cyprus is becoming a cash society, and yet
it's hard to get cash.
No accounts, no cuts, no nothing.
So what will they do?
God knows. Suicide.
Increasingly, this is happening. What happened?
There's no money, and I couldn't get any money out, and then my card won't come out.
So not only is there no money, but then you take my card as well. It was particularly devastating. Tourism dried up, unemployment skyrocketed, commercial property prices plummeted 30% in value, and the Cypriot banks had a lot of exposure to local property, which was overvalued. When the economy collapsed, all these properties lost tons of value. The banks suddenly didn't have collateral to cover the money in these banks. I went to the bank to try to get money out of the bank. Sorry, unavailable, they said. No money, can't come here. So if the bank had $1 billion of your money, or of the people's money, it spent your money on other investments, on loans, loaning out money. So it didn't spend any of your money in the bank. That was the real secret. That, of course, is the dirty secret of the banking sector, right? It's called fractional reserve banking. And it used to be that they only had to keep 10% of your money in the bank, and they could lend out the rest of it. So the law was 10%. You put in $100, the bank had to keep $10 in the bank. They could lend out the other 90 in a loan, a mortgage to somebody else, right? That's how it works. Then when COVID hit, they scrapped that. No more 10%. Now they could literally give 100% of your money away in form of loans, mortgages. So if you went down to your local bank, hey, is my money in this bank? No, it's not. It's gone. It's literally not here. And if you try to get a deposit or a withdrawal, good luck, they'll tell you to come back another day. That's how it works. So keep none of it in the bank because, you know, we're lending it fully out. The idea was ridiculous, right? Like, why during COVID was this in an effort to try to help the banks? Like, lend out 100% of your money, the average person's money, because we need the banks to be able to be saved, not you.
I'm not sure. So that's, well, I mean, it's not like they lowered any lending requirement to civilians or to, you know, customers. What were you going to say, Phil?
I was just going to say, because it was a perfect time when everybody was so distracted with other things that nobody's really going to be paying attention to the fact that the banks are now kind of changing their own rules and Congress is helping them along so that they can make more money.
And we sort of, and we accepted all changes as COVID related. Like, oh yeah, world's screwed up. I guess that's what needs to happen, you know?
Right. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Or not we, but yeah.
Or is this planned obsolescence because they're trying to say, hey, the banking system is screwed. Guess what? We have the solution, a digital federal currency. Let's move to that, and you'll be safe.
Perhaps. Yeah, and we'll be able to track and monitor everything. So the money doesn't actually exist. It's not real currency. It doesn't actually exist anywhere. Just, you know, all it is ones and zeros on a Fed balance sheet somewhere. That's all it is. It's not actual currency. So these Cypriot banks in Cyprus suddenly needed help after this run of money. And the European Union said, sorry, we're not going to bail you out. You need to use another tool at your disposal known as a bail-in, meaning the billions of dollars that you have in your account from random depositors, you can feel free to use that money. You can take the life savings of regular people to cover your debts. When people went to the banks to get their money out, they were told it wasn't available to them. Why? Because the banks took it. Regular working people lost their life savings because it was confiscated by the banking system. The EU would only cover up to €100,000. Just like in the United States, we have the FDIC, which covers a little over $200,000. But what happens if you actually have more money than that in savings? Sorry, that's all up for grabs. They can take it. That's what, according to the law, and that's exactly what happened in Cyprus. They took all of that extra money. All of it. Billions. In fact, depositors in 2 different Cypriot banks lost billions when the savings were confiscated in order to protect the island's banking system. They took all of it. Again, this is known as a bail-in, not a bail-out. So what is a bail-in? A bail-in is different than a government bailout, where the federal government will swoop in with money to save a failing bank or business. A bail-in uses the money that's already deposited into the accounts to save itself from financial disaster and financial collapse. In other words,
It's when the bank steals your money in order to cover its debts. And it's all perfectly legal, by the way. After the 2008-2009 financial collapse, the UK government, for instance, and the European Union, and the United States, under the Dodd-Frank Act, added the bail-in as a financial tool to help the banks save themselves. Here's an issue from the Bank of England, executing a bail-in, an operational guide from the Bank of England, how to do it. Here's a handbook. Here's my favorite headline. I love this headline. Why bail-ins will be the new bailouts.
Well, if you think about it, countries from Ireland to Hungary to Argentina have all done this. And according to Andrew Henderson's book, Nomad Capitalist, he says, with over $25 trillion in retirement in the U.S. alone, it's not that far-fetched to assume that your broke government will succumb to the temptation to dip into those retirement funds, especially as we see the national debt ratcheting up with, elevated military budgets. 11 countries and counting have done so in the not-so-distant past.
I didn't know it was that many.
So it's not without precedent. 11 countries have just said, we're broke, you're not, we're going to borrow from you.
It's crazy. They literally can just take your money, and this is the new normal now. So in Cyprus, all of these people who were ripped off by the banks went to court to try to get their money back. And here's what happened. The European court just threw it out. Sorry. Dismissing the compensation claim. Sorry. It's legal. They were allowed to take this money. Sorry, under these laws, the banks can just take this money. Doesn't matter. Over the past 24 hours, there have been many reports of banks across Africa taking people's money. When they go to get answers, they're being shut down. No access to ATMs. This is Access Bank customers trying to use ATMs, but they can't. Which they watch as rich customers inside the bank are walking out with bags of money, but they're not allowed to access the ATMs outside. See the metal bars? I'll show you this. Watch. This is Nigeria.
This is Access Bank at Ifako. While a lot of customers are standing outside to have access to the ATM, the security guards locked the compound, the access to the ATM, took some people inside, collected their ATM cards, and have been giving them money in bulk. Where they are, look at the people. Look at the people they allow. They allow these people in to give them bulk. They give them access to bulk cash. While their customers are out there, restricted from having access to the ATM. This is GT Bank at Ifako, opposite Zenith Bank. Access Bank, sorry, Access Bank. Opposite Ifako.
So, just trying to get access to some money, my own money in my own bank, in my own ATM, can't do it. But if you were plugged in and you had access, then you could go inside the bank, and they hand you bulk pallets of cash to be able to take home. So that's happening at Access Bank. Here's Zenith Bank. This is also happening. Zenith Bank, customers at Zenith Bank are reporting that money's being stolen from their accounts. And when they take to social media to report it, their tweets are being removed. So Zenith Bank, here's just one example. Zenith Bank is removing the tweets I made. Your bank is cramming people out of their hard-earned money, and you're blaming customers for missing money in your accounts.
Oh, I'm so glad Twitter's on that one. Thank you, Twitter.
Thanks. I don't know who's if enough bots kind of get onto it, and then they cancel out the accounts or something, or there's an algorithm thing where people jump on it, so they get all these bank people to do it or whatever. Who knows? And in the United States, back to Bank of America, which just issued a big warning about a coming recession in 2023. A recession they're warning the federal government isn't doing enough to stop. Customers of Bank of America recently demanded answers when money went missing from their accounts. Customers started showing up in the lobbies of Bank of America branches demanding to know, hey, where's the money that's supposed to be in my account? It's not there. Or it's less than it should be. What are you guys doing? Before they arrived, they were told to call customer service, so they got on the phone with customer service, and customer service didn't help them at all, so they came down to the bank branches, and they're showing up. And there's long lines of people waiting to get answers about what's going on with their money. So, and they don't want you to do this. Of course, the banks don't want you to come to them physically anymore. Banks have moved mostly digitally. In fact, there's certain bank accounts that you have will actually penalize you for going to the teller. They want you just to use the digital banking services because they don't want to have an interaction with you. Here's just one example of people showing up demanding their money at Bank of America. Watch.
So I'm at Bank of America and everybody's missing money. I'm also missing money over $1,300 and they're telling me to call customer service. And they keep hanging up on people. There's another person here who's also missing money. So we're trying to see what's going on. Money's missing today and we need our money. And they're already telling us to call customer service. And customer service ain't doing nothing about it. So just a heads up, if anybody's experiencing this, please let us know because this is not right. I'm missing $1,400 from my account, and they're telling me that there's no way they can help us. This guy's missing money too. This other person is missing money too. And you missing money too? There you go. So this is not something that's just one person. This is everybody's happening to them. And this is crazy. This is very crazy. Yes, Bank of America decided to take people's money without their consent. And we're asking what's going on, and they're giving us a runaround. Everybody for the same thing, man. The same thing.
See someone in the chat saying, "Hail Hydra." Frightening.
Yeah.
We're also hearing reports of this happening to customers at Wells Fargo and Chase Bank. Let us know in the chat what bank you have and where you're experiencing this. So far, in this poll we have up here during our live stream, almost 7,000 of you have now voted, 6,500 of you. And 25% of you have said you've either had issues with your bank lately with withdrawals or missing money. They don't want you to know about this. So some of you might say, well, my money's protected because of FDIC, right? Federal Deposit Insurance Commission. Now, if you're in the European Union, it's the European Central Bank, the ECB. So the FDIC is supposed to